I'm Melissa.
And I'm Mike.
Welcome back to Thursday, True Crime Thursday, nonetheless.
Yeah. What if we had a fake crime Thursday where we just made everything up? Should we do that sometime?
That would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we could
love a
make up
good.
our own stories, and
Yeah.
they'd be probably not as bad as half the real stories that we read.
I love a good nonfiction
Yeah.
or
Well,
fiction.
that would be fiction.
You
Yeah.
know
What
what's
we usually
crazy?
do is nonfiction.
Fiction and nonfiction, that always just, messed me up growing up in school. Like, nonfiction is real, so fiction means that
Oh
it's
yeah,
fake. Like, but if
yeah.
it's
I get what you're
nonfiction,
saying.
like,
Yeah, it
what?
seems now I understand what you're saying, and you're right. It seems like it should be the other way around.
Yeah.
It should be not real and not real. That's how we should refer to those things.
Yeah. Fiction and nonfiction always got me confused growing
Factual
up.
and non-factual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it should get reversed the other way around.
Like, so nonfiction is, like right now, still have no idea which is which, even though we just talked
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Nonfiction
Yeah.
is real.
Well, the story we're going to be talking about today is definitely real. It's also an old story.
Yeah.
This is a story from way back in 1977. And this is a story, I think we've alluded to this one before, and I'd really like to find out more about it. And through all of my efforts in contacting people, and I could put more efforts in even contacting people in the fire department, the police department, and all that. I mean, it's so long ago now that matter of fact, I happened to read that the person who was the fire chief at the time that this happened actually passed away like last year. So,
Oh, wow, that's
somebody,
crazy.
yeah. In doing my research today, I found that out. But
Right.
this is a story that I'm extremely familiar with because it happened across the street from my house when I was a child. This was on April 9th, 1977. And the article that I read from actually refers to it as one of the most tragic days in Lansdale, Pennsylvania history, due to the pre-dawn fire in the Wedgwood Park development that claimed the lives of 4 children. This happened April 9th, happened to be what's it called, like Easter Saturday, the Saturday before Easter. So basically this was the morning of, I guess you'd say, the morning of Easter. And let's see, it was in the pre-dawn hours. It was around 1:26 a.m. This housing development, they were basically like townhomes. They were like four townhomes in a group. And there were 4 siblings ranging in age from 2 to 9. And the oldest was their daughter named Sharon Mack, who was 9. Then Jason Mack, the son, was I was actually friends with, was 8.
Best
And then
friends.
the younger sister was 4. Her name was Wendy, and the youngest was a 2-year-old sister named Sandra. And basically they were trapped in the upstairs bedroom. These homes had 5 floors. Basically, they were townhomes, but they had like 5 floors that were kind of offset. You know what I mean by that?
So did any of the because townhomes, obviously they're connected, like
Right. Yeah.
none of the townhomes next to them got.
They did so these homes had firewalls between them, basically concrete walls to prevent fire from spreading too much from one to the other. But there was damage to the homes around them. They just weren't as damaged. But these had, like, the way the homes were set up, you had the first floor, then you'd have like maybe 5 steps going up to the second floor.
Right,
so
right.
they were kind of offset. And then 5 steps going up to the 3rd floor, 5 steps going up to the 4th floor, 5 steps going up to the 5th floor. So the kids' bedrooms in these homes, and we lived in the same kind of house when we lived in that neighborhood, were all on the top floor, which in retrospect, not a great idea, but
also, like, what else would you put up the top floor? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, you could put the master up there, but then the way these were arranged, you'd only have 2 bedrooms because these were 3-bedroom townhomes. Um, yeah, basically when the fire broke out, they were trapped on the top floor. They did not make it out. And I remember this like vividly because my brother, your Uncle Jimmy, happened to be still up watching TV, watching something on TV. I don't know what. I
Mhm.
think he was watching some sort of an Easter movie on TV,
Mhm.
and he was facing away from the front of our house. These houses had big picture windows in the front of the house, in the living room, which was like the main floor.
Mhm.
Um, and he could see the the brightness from the fire in like in our house, and he screamed out fire.
Oh
My
my
dad
God.
who happened yeah, my dad who happened to be up looked out the window too, and he saw it, and he thought it was so bright at that point. He thought that our front bushes were on fire. He thought like somehow our front bushes, because they had shrubs right in the front of the
Mhm.
house. He thought those had caught fire.
Mhm.
Um, they got on my your grandfather, my dad got on his CB because he was big into the CB community, the citizen band radio,
No cell phones back then.
no cell phones. He
Yeah.
got on that, and he called out right away to any emergency crews that were listening. There's a fire and
Mhm.
that, and within a few minutes, and he knew some people through that who were actually in the fire department. So uh let's see. So I'm going back to the article and not from my version of it, but
Mhm.
the fire company, the Fairmont Fire Company, led by was I guess they were volunteers led by Chief J. Devalier, arrived to find the multi-level structure heavily engulfed, and made an unsuccessful rescue attempts. From what I remember at the time, so to go back a little bit, their parents had both been out that evening. There was actually a babysitter at the house who was somebody that we knew. It was a friend of your Aunt JoJo's who was there. Um, and the dad got home. They were out, but they were at separate places. The dad got home. He paid the babysitter. She went home. He laid down on the couch. The story that we had heard was he laid down on the couch because he was tired. It was early in the morning.
Mhm.
Um, Laid down on the couch for a few minutes, and I don't remember if they said he woke up to like the sound of like glass breaking or something to that effect. Like he woke up and the house was already in flames,
Oh my
and
God.
he couldn't get up the stairs because it was up there. He, I believe, went around to the back of the house to try to do something, and I think some neighbors were out at that point trying to help him, but couldn't do anything. The fire department got there. They also couldn't get up there because it was just too engulfed. um like I said, the mom wasn't even home at the time, and again, no cell phones, so most likely she found out like when she got home.
Yeah, I think that's what
um
I read, that she found out when she came home. She just came home to her home destroyed.
yeah, yeah. um So they pretty quickly concluded that that it was arson fire, that somebody had set the fire. I mean,
Really?
with that, that kind of, and how quickly it seemed to happen. Even by that story, how quickly it seemed to happen. Um, it had to be because a house like that, barring something like a gas line explosion, which they would have known that, right? Like a gas line explosion, there would have been a boom, and there was no boom. Um, so it had to have been an arson fire. And like I said, that house was pretty much completely like destroyed. The houses on either side had like fire damage to the fronts and to the areas where the flames like got around the firewalls that were between them, but those homes were still intact. And actually, after the fire, it was probably a few years after the fire, they did rebuild the homes. They rebuilt the whole block of them. Um, one kind of one thing that we found out was the people who bought those homes after that did not know what happened in the house when they bought it. So that was kind of, you know,
Did they find out
That would be upsetting.
how the fire was actually started? Like,
That's the kind of information that I wish I could find out. I've had so much struggle finding anything out. I mean, the fact that they determined it was an act of arson, I think they had to have. They had to have known like
uh-huh.
what caused it. When those investigators go in there, like they can look at the way that the char marks are on areas, and they can
Mhm.
say, oh, it started in this area and then spread over here. That
Mhm.
like they're really like tactical about how they do that kind of thing. So I imagine that they did know where it started, probably had a good idea of how it started. I seem to remember that there was a suggestion that somebody had gone around and like, poured gasoline all over. Um,
What?
but yeah, but it said, yeah, subsequent official investigations conclude the fire was an act of arson. Despite the determination that the fire was intentionally set, no individual was ever charged or prosecuted for the crime. Now, the investigators at the time, and I think it may have been the police chief. I had read an article like years later, and I couldn't find even that article now, but that was an interview with him. It was either him or it was one of the investigators, because it may have been like, I don't know that the fire chief is the one doing the investigations, but I don't know how all that works. Um, but it was the main investigator on it. They were pretty convinced, for whatever reason, that it was the father who had done it. Now, we talk about a lot of these kind of cases, right? We talk about a lot of these kind of cases where they seem like a normal family, and then one day, something snaps, and somebody does something horrible like this. But it it's always been hard for me, as somebody that knew the family, knew the way their dad was with them, because I was over their house all the time, and knowing the way that not only that they were with their dad, but the way their dad was with them, it was something that was unfathomable to us. As it's an interesting point, as I understand it from that article, which I could not find prior to doing the recording this evening, but um, he actually had the father had actually retired and moved to Florida at some point. Um, and but the person who was the main investigator in it had always suspected that it was the dad for whatever reason.
Hmm.
um but they couldn't prove it. They never charged him. So I mean, in that case, it's kind of, you know if you're the investigator and you're out like putting those kinds of things out there, but not really talking about why you feel that way, I think that's kind of irresponsible.
Well,
um
oh yeah, because you're too high of a position to just be out there making accusations
right. Right, exactly.
with no
Um,
backing to say anything. Like even in some of these like obvious cases that we do, when it's like the husband or whatever, like the investigators aren't out there just saying like we think it's probably the husband.
yeah, and that's what I always wondered was, was it a case of, exactly that well, it's usually, they're usually the prime suspect, and, he had been the one um who who was home. He was the one like the last person that was in the house before this fire started,
Mhm.
because when the babysitter left, nothing was, there was no fire or anything like that. Um, so, um, was that the reason? Because he was able to get out, but somehow, the kids weren't. Um, I, I don't know. I don't know like what the reasoning that they would have thought that was. Um,
See, I think that like, well, yeah, there definitely were not ring doorbell cameras back then to
there were
see if
not. No.
anyone was like around. Or the only thing I think is like kind of fishy, like I want to know the distance between when the babysitter left and when the fire actually first started,
Yeah.
cuz
Yeah.
he didn't wake up when the fire first started. I mean, unless the fire just started and like immediately engulfed, but sometimes fire takes a little bit to like actually build up. So,
Right.
yeah, I'd like to know that, like what the distance between the time difference between when the babysitter left and
Right.
when the fire started and the dad, realized all of that. Because what if it was, especially if there was talk about there being gasoline, what if it
Right.
was the babysitter? The babysitter poured some gasoline and like did something weird, or
Right. I mean, the only thing there is like, I mean, first of all, that doesn't make any sense. Like, there
couldn't
would
have
be
been the
no reasoning
kids.
behind that. Yeah, and I mean, even thinking that like it's something that the kids did that would be hard to think of because
The oldest was 9.
you know, like yeah, and so those houses didn't have attached garages. There would be no reason to have like gasoline where it would be accessible in the house. Most people had like sheds in their backyard where you'd keep your lawnmower and your gas and all that.
Oh.
So that to have it accessible in the house even would be a little odd.
Mhm.
Um and aside from that, I mean, like knowing the dynamic of the situation,
Mhm.
like none of those make sense. Like I said, the suspicion of the dad doesn't make sense. I did find a little bit more detail that came out of a New York Times article at the time about the case because you know. I mean at the time it was like a big kind of national story. It became that because of how tragic it was, 4 kids under the age of 10 being killed, in one night. Uh, and it says detectives rigorously questioned him regarding the precise movements, how he managed to get out, and why he was unable to reach the children's upstairs bedrooms. Again, knowing the way those houses were organized, depending on where the flames were by the time he
Mhm.
realized it, I don't know. I can also understand why that would make you suspect is you got out of the house, they didn't. And, you know, at the same time, if he got out of the house and was then like working with neighbors to try to get in and do something, that
Yeah.
also doesn't make sense because, in that scenario, you'd think you would just, I don't know.
Have like ran upstairs, and if anything, like you're risking your own life, but you're trying to save your kids.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also reading some other details here, and some of these aren't confirmed, so I don't know that I want to. Ultimately, because physical evidence was severely damaged by the heavy multi-level blaze, and testimonies from that night were convoluted. Prosecutors did not have enough conclusive evidence to firmly pin the arson on the father or the outside suspects. And they talk about, I never remember hearing this, but they do have some details in here on some other people.
Yeah, but the other people would have had to still have get access to inside the home in the middle of the
Well,
night
yeah, I mean,
without like
so
being.
here's the thing though. Like, so he got home, he went in, laid down on the couch. Um, I mean, the way those homes were, like, I mean, this was the 70s. People didn't always lock their doors. It was that kind of neighborhood. Like, people didn't always lock their front doors. Matter of fact, I don't think that our house had a deadbolt on it. Like, I don't remember it having a deadbolt. It just probably had one of those little door locks. So, but it does talk about like somebody who'd been hired as an employee by the father's brother was a suspect for some reason. Um, and again, nobody was charged because they clearly couldn't get enough evidence, on anything. It also mentions a case took an incredibly strange turn when a suspect linked to the broader family work cycle allegedly fled upstairs during chaotic confrontation surrounding the incident. I never heard any of that. So, you
Mhm.
know, I have also found that in trying to research this, it gets confused with other cases in that area. So that detail may not be completely accurate. Um,
I imagine like in an arson case, it has to be difficult to even like really find someone who did it unless you have like an eyewitness or video footage of somebody or things like that, because
right.
otherwise, yeah, how do you kind of if it was the dad, hypothetically, how do you prove that? How do you prove
Right.
he was the one who poured gasoline everywhere? And even if it's like, oh, well, you have a gasoline, because that's also, so that's what's weird as well, unless he had it like in a bottle, a water bottle or something. Like,
Right.
I assume, I don't know, they would have still like found a gas can somewhere. I mean, I guess he has a lawnmower
Right.
or whatever, but like, I don't know. I feel like there would be a lot of evidence like that connecting it, because
Right.
even
Yeah,
him.
you would think there would have been like he had residue from, whatever was used to ignite it on his hands. He had
Uh-huh.
residue from the gasoline on his
Hmm.
hands, or something to that effect. If there was that kind of
Or how
evidence,
he
yeah.
lit it. Like I guess people probably had lighters back then,
Right.
but if it was a situation of like, we found this match here, like, I don't know. Mostly because, like, especially if gasoline is involved, the minute that flame hits gasoline, it's
Right.
like, even if
Right.
it was somebody who broke into the home and did that, it's like there would be too much he wouldn't have woken up to the flames already have taken over the house if it was
True.
somebody who
True.
broke in, lit the gasoline, like.
Right. Right. And I'm trying to remember, like I said, I thought somebody had said something about maybe hearing something smash or something like that. And those homes, so thinking of the way those homes were laid out, we called it a rec room, which was the bottom floor, which was just kind of a big open room. Then the second floor was the living room. And that was where the kind of front door was. Then the third floor was the dining room and the kitchen. Then the fourth floor was the master bedroom and the bath. They only had one bath. Or no, they had 1.5 baths. There was a bathroom all the way downstairs. And then the fifth floor was the other two bedrooms, the children's bedrooms. So, if somebody like, and the kitchen area had a window in the back. So if somebody like, threw like something like a Molotov cocktail or something like that, like through the back window, I
Mhm.
don't know. I still would tend to think something like that wouldn't necessarily cause the whole house to go up, that quickly. There would have to have been something else to, cause it to spread that quickly. but
Mhm.
but I don't know, and it's cases like this. I think like we don't talk about a lot of the unsolved ones. We talk about a lot of them after they're solved and the person's gone to jail, or like the ones
They're
now
in
where they're up for trial.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think like ones like this, and like for me personally, because like I know so much about this case because I was there. um I think these are the real tragic ones where it's just
Yeah.
unsolved. Like this happened. They never really were able to prove who did it. The person who did it didn't pay for it, at least not in a court. If it was the father, or, I mean, honestly, if it was somebody else, even,
Mhm.
and they didn't get, punished by being, sent to jail or worse,
Mhm.
um, they had to live the rest of their life knowing that they did that. So I guess they got punished in that way,
Mhm.
ultimately. But yeah, these kind are just like, I think, more tragic somehow to me, because when somebody's found and they're held accountable for what they did, and they actually, like, it gives the family closure, and the extended family closure, because
Mhm.
somebody paid for it. um but like when that doesn't happen, it feels like the whole thing is worse, because there's just, no kind of closure for, like, why did this happen? What was the reason that somebody did this, that these four kids had to die?
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. That's why I don't know. I don't really like even look into too many unsolved cold cases, because it is sad. It's sad that there's this whole case that's literally just, the files are just in a police station somewhere in a box, filed
Right.
away, and
Right.
probably will never be touched. Like, even you hear these stories where literally years later, after, DNA, just, you know, the ways of how you test DNA and stuff, it improves over time. And you'll have
Right.
somebody that gets hired in the police station or the investigative department, and they'll dig into some of those old cold cases and try and solve them. But I think there's
Yeah.
also just so many of them that it's like they're probably
Yeah.
never all going to get solved,
No, I
unfortunately,
mean, that's
especially as time passes and you don't know how much evidence they actually took from the scene and
right.
investigated back then. Anyways,
Right.
like you said, even, as far as testing the dad's hands that night to see if he had any kind of gasoline residue, because if he actually did just wake up on the couch, realize
Right.
he's surrounded by just flames and havoc, and he just ran outside
Yeah.
the house, there would have been no way that,
Yeah, I
you know.
think if I remember correctly, at the time the story was that the smoke was just that bad. And
Yeah.
when smoke's that bad, they tell you, stay low, below it, because
Yeah.
you'll get, it'll make you pass out, and then you're done. Um, and that was the story at the time. Again, now it sounds like some of the stuff that I'm reading there that they did have some other possibilities, and that it's just it's I mean, it's like some of the other kind of still in process unsolved cases, like Nancy Guthrie.
Mhm.
How someone can just disappear in the middle of the night and not and today, we've got a lot more than we had back then, because back then, if people had doorbell cameras, they would know exactly what happened. They would have known exactly what happened.
Yeah.
um so today, for there to be things like the Nancy Guthrie case, it's just mind-boggling to me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Especially in the neighborhood she was at. Not to even like switch the case to her, but like
No,
the
no,
case
but
she was
it's
at is like a neighborhood that you would assume like people don't just have doorbell cameras. They got the cameras on the corner of their house and the floodlights and all that
yeah.
stuff, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's that one's still strange to me. I mean, this is a case, from, I can't do the math right now, but it's not 50 years. It might be 50 years almost.
Yeah.
That there's no, and likely whoever did it has already died.
Yeah.
So, you're not gonna even if you could solve it, what's the point at this point, other than, for people
Closure.
who were, yeah,
Yeah.
for people who are still here, who were affected by it, some kind of closure to say. And even then, again, even if you could say who did it and how, you're
Mhm.
never gonna know the why. You're never gonna, at this point, know the why. And that's frustrating. That's, it's sad. It's like all these cases that we talk about. It's sad, but yeah, that was one that I've wanted to talk about for a while, and I've held off because I wanted to see what more information I could find on it. And it's just so hard. It's so hard finding information on it at this point. But that's
Yeah.
what we have.
Yeah. No, it's a very interesting case. Arson cases always boggle my mind kind of, because I think that's such a crazy way to like go about things. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, we've read a couple stories where the parents or dad, you know, basically annihilates his entire family, and they usually do it in different ways. I think starting a
Yeah.
fire and burning your whole home down and
Yeah.
killing your kids, like that also just doesn't make that much sense to me, especially back in the
Yeah.
70s. Like he could have just ran away and disappeared if he didn't want all that
Yeah.
anymore. You know what I
That's true.
mean? Like,
That's very true. Yeah.
so,
Yeah, and I mean, using something like that too as a means of, like, you know of getting rid of people, or
yeah,
killing people, seems
crazy.
yeah, because you can do that, and it cannot have the result you're trying to get. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
thing to me, is, people who do those kind of things for that reason generally want to make sure that what they're doing is going to achieve their desired result. And that's, fire is random. Yeah, it could have started and then gone out, or it could have started and, somebody woke up and got out before. You know what I mean? It's just not like that's where that part of it doesn't so much make sense to me. The idea that somebody else might have done it, um, for some kind of like a
Like
revenge
payback,
thing or something
yeah.
like that. Yeah, maybe not even,
Uh-huh.
maybe was thinking about, what they were doing to the kids, maybe wasn't, and was just trying to do it as a revenge thing against somebody.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. That kind of thing would make more sense to me, like knowing the circumstance and all that.
But not
Um,
sense if the fire started inside.
right, right, right.
Because
Also
to
true
go
because
in
they would have
someone's
had to get
house,
in the house.
I think if
Yeah.
it's a person who's trying to light somebody's house on fire, they're just gonna like start it from the outside.
Also true. Yeah.
Like,
Started.
I think it's kind of
Yeah.
too bold to like sneak in someone's house at 1 in the morning and pour gasoline everywhere and light the fire. Like, even then, if
Yeah.
that is somebody, like, then it's definitely somebody that they know. So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too. Which would tie into that other person that they mentioned. Like I said, I'm I'm
Mhm.
not putting complete confidence in that part of it because um I wasn't able to verify that before I talked about it, so that
Mhm.
may be inaccurate. I did, that's what I'm saying about this one. It was just so hard to find
Yeah.
good real. I found a few news articles on it from the back then, from back when it happened,
Mhm.
which mostly contained facts that I already knew.
Yeah.
I did have read an interview a couple of years ago on it with the main investigator in the case, the main detective on the case, which was where some of that information about the father came from.
Mhm.
Um, but it's just so, and what ends up happening is using as we often do, using AI for it, that it sometimes gets confused and it confuses two cases, and that did happen in some parts of my research here where I had to throw out the information because I knew it was bad.
Yeah.
Uh, but some of that came from articles. It was summarized from articles that were the actual articles, so that may be true. um don't know, but if there's anybody out there who who hears this, who knows more about this case than we do, I'd love to hear from you. If you know somebody who is involved in, like, you know cold cases and that kind of thing in southeastern Pennsylvania, would love to hear anything that they might be able to find out about it, because I'd I'd love to be able to give an update on this that had more information. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's so sad. They were such
Yeah.
babies. Hopefully they were asleep and didn't
Yeah.
really have to deal with
Yeah.
much of it. That's
Yeah,
so
that
sad.
was the assumption at the time, was that the smoke probably, you know they were probably asleep because it was 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and the smoke probably took them before any of the other, the flames or anything got there, which is, I guess, a comfort to some extent. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Oh. Well,
so that's this week.
good story, Dad. Not a good story,
Yeah,
but
yeah, no,
you tell stories very well. Good job.
thank you. Yeah, well, if there's a positive to this one, it's that I tell stories well. So
Aww.
anyway, now check check us out again. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm coughing. Check us out again. Not to put some shameless self promotion in, but check us out again on Monday. Where for Marvel Monday, when Brandon and I will be discussing our thoughts on Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Mhm.
Because let's see, the day this episode comes out, we're going to see it that night.
Oh,
Yeah, we're gonna do. I think we're
really?
gonna do a quick little preview video right after we see it, just
Oh.
to give some kind of initial thoughts, and then we'll do a full discussion on
I
on
thought you were
Monday's
gonna say
episode.
a
So
I thought you were gonna say a fit check. I thought you guys were like Brandon's dressing up as Spider-Man and you're dressing up
uh,
as
yeah,
who's
no,
his best
no.
friend?
Oh, Ned, I'm gonna
Ned.
really. Wow,
I don't
that
know.
that
Brandon already
hurts.
has a Spider-Man costume.
I thought you could at least be nice and say I'd dress up as Iron Man. Like, come on.
Iron Man doesn't exist anymore. He's an evil villain now.
Yeah, I'd have to dress up as Ghost. Well, no, hey, don't be spoiling the next movie. Come on.
Well, that's what I saw. I actually saw something the other day and it said,
Yeah.
what is his name? What is his villain name?
Dr. Doom.
Doctor Doom. I saw something because this girl was making a Doctor Doom donut, and she was like, "Yeah, this is Iron Man, I guess," and she was like, "Which I guess he's a villain now? I don't know, I'm confused." And then people in the comments were like, "Yeah, because if you live long enough, you either become, what's the saying?
You become the thing you hate? Is that it?
No, you eventually like will become a villain or something
Oh,
like that.
oh,
So
I don't
there's
know.
some saying like that, I guess.
I don't know.
But
Side note on that though. So wow, have we gone off the rails of True Crime Thursday here? But we've drifted from True Crime Thursday right into Marvel Monday. No weekend. No, but side note on that, so Disney's doing a deal with the NFL where they're putting out team shirt, different team shirts for the NFL teams that feature Disney characters.
oh, we saw that on
And
the news this morning. Oh wait, no.
yeah,
Just
so
kidding. No, I'm thinking of something else.
yeah, so the Giants, you can tell Adrian this, the Giants feature, I think it's the guy from Wreck-It Ralph. I think that's who it is. I think.
Okay.
I think that's who it is.
Hmm.
The Eagles feature Dr. Doom.
Well, look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
I guess because he's green and the Eagles are green.
That makes
It's not really,
sense.
it's not that much of a tie-in. He's not an Eagle.
I don't
But
like him
anyway.
as a villain, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Well, we'll
guys.
see. We'll see. I mean, so in that story, he's a villain who has he's a villain who's got misguided intentions. Let's put it that way.
Same.
So,
So.
okay. And on that note, have a good weekend, guys. Like I said, check out Marvel Monday and check out our Tuesday episode where we will be discussing, I forget what, but something good. Oh, back to school. That's right. Back to school. So check us out.
Bye, everybody.
And
oh, go ahead. No.
I was just going to remind people to subscribe.
Oh, yeah, definitely subscribe. Subscribe so we're encouraged to make more of these.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Bye, guys.